So hi and welcome back to MDriven. This is chapter 6 in the training course, and if you made it this far, really good. And we will dive into some more specific application logic, because believe it or not, we have mostly covered the essential tasks that are simple steps by their own, but as you combine them and repeat them over and over for different scenarios and different purposes, it will be enough to build all the possible information systems that you will ever need. I promise. So let's go, and I prepared a few tasks here, steps. So in the person view model, the button cars I used to own. Let's see. So in the person view model, this one does not do anything and can be removed. But let me explain where it came from. Well, first let's check if it doesn't do anything. I'm gonna get this started. So person seeker, and this is another issue that we're gonna deal with soon. And I put a 1, or so you can put anything to get an age. I'm gonna show the person, and that was the wrong one. Person I'm in control. This one, cars I used to own. Yeah, correct, doesn't do anything. And how is that? Why is that? When we adopted the auto person form and named it person, it first worked since it pointed to the auto form person cars I used to own multilink. That showed the content of the cars I used to own. But since we have regenerated the auto forms after that point, and this action lost its original form, the auto form that we regenerated, and it was recreated, this action is not really connected to anything. So we can remove the button and remove the view model action multi-link cars I used to own. So this one is connected to an action over here that has actually no longer any view model to bring up. And since that's the case, this is totally dead in the water. We could of course just set one, and that would be okay as well. Then we have defined it. But the instruction was to delete it. And since it was deleted, this one is no longer connected to anything, but the button is still here. So I'm gonna delete the widget. As I do that, this view model column will be deleted. So I can either go here or I can go here to do the same thing. You can try. Let's do this, and Control Z to undo, and go here. Yeah, same thing. I'm gonna save that. So we're gonna add a view model column, mark it as action, see that it turns into a button. Okay, so adding a view model column, there's many ways. You can either add action button directly, but we're gonna add a generic column like this, and we're gonna put it over here. And the instruction was to turn it into an action by checking it is action. Let's see. Is action. Yeah. Is action. And then it turns into a button. Okay. I'm gonna place that right about here, I think. I'm gonna make it too wide. Or how wide? It spans 4 columns. I can also see this by turning on 3 columns. Alright. Name it, add a car I used to own. Yeah, no problem. I can either do it here or I can do it here. Doesn't matter. Create a view model action named add a car I used to own action. So a view model action, you see them here. So it didn't specify a level, so I assume it's the root level. I always call this the green one for the root level, so sometimes we refer to as the green level. So it's a view model action, not a class action in this case, a view model action. Okay, view model action, double clicking that to get it up and renaming it here. Hook up the button add a car I used to own to the action add a car I used to own action. Yeah, so this one, I'm gonna hook that up to add a car I used to own action. So the separation between buttons that really only do simple things and actions that are quite potent to bring up other views and navigate. So in order to get a button to actually have that ability to navigate, we simply hook it up and use an action. Hook up the button used to own by selecting it in the picker next to this is action checkbox. We did that. 188. Press the new editor button in the top of the view model editor. In the new window, find Autoform Seeker. Okay, so this is the new editor window, and that will bring up a copy of the view model editor so that we get two. This can be practical when we work with the and we want to see multiple views at the same time. You can have as many as you want, as your screen fits. That's not a problem. So now we were supposed to select a Autoform car seeker. Yeah, Autoform car seeker. So here's that one that we were asked to look up. Adopt the Autoform seeker to make it your own. Name it car seeker. Okay, remember, and go here, go to Autoforms because it's an Autoform related operation that we want to do. Adopt this Autoform and make it your own. Okay, and then it turned into car seeker. I guess that's fine, but yeah, name it car seeker. That was done for us. Good. Back to add a car I used to own action. Set up the bring up view model to car seeker. Alright, so I'm gonna switch back to the other view model. This one. Add a car I used to own action, getting into that. And the bring up view model from here, car seeker. So that's our new view model. That's fine. And let's see. Save and test web. Alright. Okay, so that worked. It jumped away to this page, from here to this page. Okay. When we in the web try to add a new car I've owned, we see that the seeker for cars come up, but we rather just want to show it on top of the person form. That's correct. We don't want to leave to do this. We want to sort of stay in place. So go back to add a car I used to own action. Find the checkbox is modal. Check it. Save test web. Let's do that. Here, car seeker. Add a car I used to own. Gonna bring up this view, but we're gonna check this one is modal. And I'm going to save that, and we're going to go to web and test. Alright, so then it comes up like this as a modal dialog on top. What's a modal dialog? Well, we can't really leave it unless we dismiss it. We can't do anything in the background. This one is in a modal state. We must end this. There's an OK button here, but that's not enabled. So what's up with that? Okay, so a modal 193. A modal dialog OK button has an enable expression. This must be made true for user to press OK. Set it to true by typing the OCL constant true in the box. Save test web. Okay. So enable expression for modal OK. So this is the expression. And we were supposed to type true. It's always easier to open the OCL editor even if you can freebase it. So that's true, and that's system boolean, and it's a primitive type, and it requires a boolean result true in order to be correct. You can also type false, but if we were to type like something else, it's kind of type sensitive since it's a constant. So true, and save, and test web. So now it's okay. Good. But we really want to have the user to search and select cars prior to returning. So open the enable expression for modal OK OCL editor on the three dots and find vModal result vCurrent car in the result expression helper tree. Make that the expression save test web. So there's, instead of just having true here, we should go like clear it and find okay, type this wrong. This shouldn't be like this. Let's see what it should be like. Yeah, instead it should be like this. Did it wrong, sorry for that. So find the current car in the expression helper tree, make that the expression, and I will explain why it should be the expression. We'll go here and the current car seeker, and that should not be empty, right? Not null. In order for us to return. So the current car is the selected car in the search result set. Let's see if I can get this to work like this. I'm going to copy that and fix the instruction because that was obviously not complete. So in the expression helper tree, make the expression that make sure that the expression is and save and test web. Save the model test web. So now it's not enabled, but if I search something and I have cars and I'm gonna select one of them, and then it is enabled because then the current car is this one, and then I can press OK. So now the OK button is only enabled if there's a car selected in the search result. Works for you? Try to search for cars, select first, then search for some nonsense, empty search result, and see that it turns not OK again. So it remembers where we were, but if I type that in and search, there's nothing here, and actually this is not how it is supposed to be. We're gonna go back and do a fix this expression, because this isn't really the optimal expression for this, obviously. So going back here, and instead of checking the current selected car, which sort of should be okay, but we can check the result list. So the seeker result list, that should not empty. So that's a much better expression for this. I'm gonna go back here and I'm gonna amend the instructions like this, saving that. And now when we save this and test let's make sure that the model was saved, and we head back to the web, and so if I search something, it's gonna see that it doesn't seem like it has search. If I search on some nonsense, now there's nothing here, so now it's not enabled. And if I search on something, it is okay. Yeah, so a bit of a roundabout for that, sorry for that. And now the okay, that was this one that we've now done. 196, the add a car I used to own action also has an action expression, action after model OK. This is where we can act on the user wishes once the user press OK. So this will not be performed on console or close box in the model. So because what we probably want to do is when user has searched, found something and press OK, there should happen something. So that's where this action after model OK will be performed. So we're gonna go into the OCL editor for action after model OK, and on this add a car I used to own action. So expression after model OK. So this is an action editor, so we have allowed side effects here, and now we can see we have the modal result prefix on some. So those all emanate from the modal window, and the other one is the window that we are in, the receiving window, in our case the person. So let's see what it was we should do, and type the expression v current person. Okay, I'm gonna do that. V current person. So that's the person of the form that we actually adding cars to. To cars I used to own dot cars I used to own. So that's a association to list of cars, and add, all right, dot add parenthesis, and then the modal result v current car and parenthesis. Let's grab that one from here like this. Okay, if you manage to find the birds in a tree one at a time, see the tree updates to reduce the option that to what fits best. Okay, so 198 explains this a bit more detail, more words. The current person is the root of the view we're in. It's an object of class person. The current person cars I used to own is that person's cars I used to own. The current person cars I used to own add argument is a list operation to add a reference to an association. And the model result the current car is the car object that the user choose in the modal car seeker. Make sure your expression is ... and save and test the web. Good. Save and test in web. So car I used to own, search. I'm gonna pick old car 1, okay, and now the old car 1 was added to this one. So operations can be cancelled off or saved. Unsaved things can also be undone and redone in multiple steps by the user. Try that. Okay, so okay, wrong place. That was not where I was meant to be. Let's see. I'm gonna add a car. I'm gonna add that one, and if I add another one without saving, that one, I have 2 cars. Now I can undo. So I undo the first car and then I can cancel everything. And are you sure you want to lose changes? Yes. But then I can redo. Yeah. So you can work with that with your users, and in the end you might want to save the change that you have. 200. Bring up another browser form. Navigate to person seeker. We are going to quickly fix a problem I see with the person seeker. When you seek with a blank input, you get nothing, when you probably should get all. So I'm gonna bring up a new browser form like this, and a person seeker. And if you search blank, yeah, actually nothing happens. If I were to search something like this, and I think this is actually some kind of a small bug, but let's not get hung up on that now. So I have this one, and when I search on nothing, and the result isn't really updated, and the most user-friendly thing were to show as much as possible at this point. So we're gonna fix that. Open up the view model person seeker. So I'm gonna have the view model for this. And grab it here, person seeker. And add another search expression and add a criteria. So search expressions, you can simply click anywhere here, and maybe actually you need to, in here, add nested view model class, add a search expression. So now we got one of these orange boxes, and it says here that should add a criteria, but one is added for us. So we're going to change criteria, set it to person all instances. That's almost what it was, but it has select as well, so I'm going to remove that. And then it also said active expression to vseek param is null or empty. Let's see. So this is actually only going to be active when the seek param, which is the filter value that you feed in here, is null or empty. I'll save that, and when I now search, I get everything unless I reduce it to only those that fit. Hans, maybe this was a bit tough. It was case sensitive search. Case sensitivity is often set on database level. Now we're running against an XML schema, and then it's case sensitive. So usually SQL Server is set up to be non-case sensitive on searches. Good to know. Um, 202. Bring up person some other dude in browser window 2. What happens when he picks a car I used to own that your browser win one person already picked? So some other dude, I'm gonna bring that up. Show person, I'm in control. That's not yeah. Now I'm gonna test this then. And this is my 1 to 3 person. Now you sort of see them both, and this one has picked old car 2 of type BMW. So what if this one searches and picks old car 2 as well? Oh, did you see? It was removed from 1, 2, 3. Oh. And can we explain this? Well, actually we can explain everything. You see here in the model, previous owner is 0 to 1. So that means that everything we do will follow the model, and if we have multiple persons all accessing the same core object, the core object can only have one previous owner, so that would be the last one. And since this association is, we promise that it will be maintained in both ends. If it can't be in that end, it's not in this end either. So cars I used to own will be reduced, and it's not cleared in a way. So I can show this by if I also have old car 2 on this one, and save that, and then I head over here and I say this one is gonna have old car 3, and now everyone is happy. But as soon as this one says, or let's say that this one is gonna also have old car 3, I'm gonna save that, then I'm robbed of mine here. And that's totally by design. That's totally what we set. It might not be what we want, but it's totally what we set. So that's the difference. And these kind of mistakes where you discover that you think you designed something okay on the model level, but as you see how the objects behave in real life, you quickly discover that I've actually made a small mistake. So we're gonna fix that in the coming steps. So 203, we want it to be possible to have had multiple previous owners. Change the cardinality from 0 to 1 to 0 to many. So this is the cardinality that I'm talking about, previous owners. I'm probably going to write that as well. Copy that one into the instruction. And I can either change it here like this, or I could change it here like this. Doesn't matter. And save. Save and see errors. So there's errors here now, and some are from the auto forms. So I'm gonna just, at least I suspect there are. So I'm gonna refresh the auto forms, and now they went away. Good. And 205, we can now repeat step 202 and see how it works now. So 202, bring up two persons, and they're gonna see what happens when we pick the same car. So, add a car I used to own, search. And now we're going to repeat these steps. And I'm going to pick car, old car 1 and 2. Yeah, doesn't matter if, because the way I've done it now is that we only take the current, right? I'm going to look at taking multiple also. Now I have 2. Let's check this other one. I'm going to take the old car 2 as well. So now they can share the cars. So that's good. 2 things that pop to mind. 206. Make it possible to take multiple cars at a time using the selected. So all forms views in MDriven has these cursor variables created and maintained for you. So vCurrent for what's currently selected in the visual tree, and vSelected if there are many. So we're going to change this action that actually assign the values. So in person and in the action, add a car I used to own action. This uses the current person cars I used to own, and add the vModel result, the current car. So this is the current selected car. But I said that we also had the selected car. And that's a valid variable, but we still get an error because we can't add one list to another. So this is actually a list of potentially many cars. So how can we merge these lists? Well, we actually have to loop over the incoming list. So I can collect over that one, and then we get to see each object in the incoming list. So this is the list of the user selected objects. So you're going to call that, give that a loop variable, and I'm going to call it picked car, PC. So there's a picked car, and for each picked car we're going to add it to cars I used. So that's just how you would go about handling many instead. I'm going to save that, and also I'm going to lift this out and put it in the instruction. Okay. Did I save it? So if I'm here and search and I select multiple, I also get multiple. Okay, now it's hard to see because I've already picked the three that were there, so I'm gonna switch person, right? I'm gonna do this guy, and he has no cars, but he's gonna get these two in one go, and hit it. Good. So working with many-to-many relationships, it's very common to want an association clause. Create a new clause in the diagram called historic ownership. Like that. Click the association clause connection tool. Click historic ownership clause, drag and hold, let mouse go when over the many-to-many relation between person and car. So this one, drag out new association clause connection mode. I'm going to go into that. I'm going to click this one. If I drop it over this, I get a dotted line. Add an attribute date sold of type datetime to the clause historic ownership. I'm going to make that datetime nullable. So nullable, remember, is the ability to hold nothing, and that's probably a valid option as well. Control A for adding an attribute. Date sold, date time. In the view model person, we add another grid table that shows link objects. So these are typically called link objects. And they will be maintained automatically for us whenever something happens in this association. A new link object will be created, or association object. So no matter which end is affected, but there will be a new one like this. So what's interesting, if we point at this one, is, yes, we should point at this one. Is that we have an ability to change the link role name. So if we select the link role, now we are in cars I used to own, so in this direction. Link role name. When I select this one, it says the name to navigate to the link clause. So instead of going all the way there, we're going there. So that would be named typically historic ownerships. So that's the default name for that. But once we're here and we want to continue down to here, that is the inner link name. The name to navigate onwards to target from the link clause. So we're going this way, what we're going to call this one. And this we typically want to give a good name, because otherwise it will try to use this name in some fashion. So I'm just going to call that car, and that was for this association, car I used to own, but I pointed the whole association line, and that has two ends. So this association end and the inner link name, the name to navigate onwards, and I'm going to call that person. So 210 set inner link names. That what was okay. In the view model person, we had another grid table that shows the link objects. Add nested view model class multi-links. Find historic ownership. So what I mean is that we right click here, add nested view model class multi-links, historic ownership, and we got another grid, and it turned out to be placed on top. I'm gonna move it. Let's move it to the side here. Oh, it's jumping around on me like that. Make that bigger as well too. Okay, in this historic ownership we might want to add then columns. And here we see that we have the access to the inner links, car and person. It's a shame that this helper didn't help us out enough, but there's another way to we're gonna add the date sold anyway. So that's the date sold, and let's see how we find another way to add view model columns. Add column from model, and I want the person and I want the name of the person. So now it's built up the expression for me, self person name. I'm gonna grab that one by clicking that one. So now I got self person name added. Yeah, but I want another one. I also want the car. So I'm gonna go to car and the registration number of the car. Or rather, I would, yeah, let's suffice with that, but change this one to as string, because remember we had a presentation on the car, if my memory serves me right. And one of the good things with MDriven is that you shouldn't have to rely too much on memory alone. You have everything documented, so the default string representation of car is registration number of type, and it brings in things like this, so that's good. But we don't have any default representation for person as of yet. Alright, what happens with the application now then? If I refresh this one. So when I give this person some cars, this one and this one, this list is maintained. That was the one from before, but the historic ownership is also maintained. So now it says that it's Hans Carlsen and old car of type 2. Of course it's me. It's me in the form, you say. Well, then we probably don't want this column, but we probably more likely want this grid than this grid, because this has the ability to hold the date sold, and that would be unique for us. So I'm going to remove this one and only have the historic ownership. So 213, we did this one, and 213, remove the car I used to own grid, since the other link class grid has the same and more information. This is almost always the case. If you have an association class, you want to show that instead of the end object. This is due to the increased precision that the link object has, pointing out the exact pair of associated objects. So if it looks like this, we almost always want to show this in a grid instead of those. And the other way around, if we have a car and want to see all the persons that has previously owned it, we most likely want to list this, because there's more details and more information, and there's really nothing bad about being at this level, because it's an easy jump to here and here. On the other hand, if you go here and you end up with these, and then you ask yourself, where did I come from? It's a bit tricky, because then you're gonna go back upstream, so to speak, through a multi association with potentially millions of cars. Well, not likely, but anyway. So I'm gonna do that by, I can simply, what I can do is, so whenever I click it, I'll see that which one there's yellow dots going, so I can see that this is the column in question. I'm gonna delete this column. And what happened then is, what it left the space here, it left the nesting if you want to come back to it or connect it to something else, but we just want to drop that as well. So now we're gonna move this one in here instead. I'm gonna also remove this nonsense as string thing here, like so. One thing that we might as well mention once we're here is this one, act as for expressions. So what happens now that we're not showing cars anymore, we're showing historic ownership. And let's just see if I'm selecting a car here. There's two actions, show car, but that's not possible since this is a historic ownership, so the class action won't match. So what should we do about that? Well, one thing, we should really check that this is a yeah. So one thing is that we could add a new class action for historic ownership, but that might seem superficial. We want it to pick up on this car over here, and then act as for actions is a great thing, because now we're in the context of an historic ownership, and we can just say self.car. And what the action system will do then is say, oh, so you want me to act as a car using this expression for actions. Yeah, pretty much. So then it will show the actions available for car. So that's pretty cool, because that removes the need for me to define a lot of actions multiple times if they are already available somewhere else. Good. Did we get that on tape? But not in text. Okay, I'm gonna write it up. Let's call this a day. Thank you.